A long-standing tradition was breached as ANC President Jacob Zuma walked off the Labour Day event at the Loch Logan Park. Not only was a national leader humiliated publicly, the incident also raised questions over the principles backing the ambush-style protests. There were attempts to express regret by Cosatu and the SACP since the embarrassing events played out, but the ANC blames premature pronouncements by the alliance structures on party succession for the fiasco. So far, the contestation processes are at the core of the current conflict. The biggest criticism of the ANC's current electoral process is over divisive slate politics. And critics say the slates the tendency to undermine merit and end up promoting undeserving candidates. And the slates are also said to allow for corruption and bullying and selling of votes.
We have long accepted that there are problems within the ANC, so that's given. We have committed ourselves to addressing those challenges, even within the alliance. You are aware that both Cosatu and the SACP have called for our president to step down. So you can see that there are challenges within the alliance as well. Whether this will affect us in 2019, certainly if we don't deal with the issues that people are raising, it will affect us.
And joining us live in studio, Professor Sipho Siepe, political analyst, Fiso Mahlangu, resident political analyst. We also have Mr. Jacob Mamabolo, SACP Gauteng Provincial Secretary, and we'll also have Botsang Muila, political analyst. Let's start with you. Good evening, Mr. Mamabolo. In terms of what's going on in the alliance now, with 2019 being threatened, if you will, in terms of the ANC's success, what revival strategies are there to reunite and fix what the problem is in the alliance?
Firstly, let me say good evening, and to my colleagues. I think the most important thing to say at this point is to emphasize the very first step and message that came out very clear from the leaders of the alliance yesterday. I think in the aftermath of the May Day, across the length and breadth of the country, all the leaders of the alliance made one profound point, and I think they've agreed that the very first step for the entire alliance to be united to move forward is to deal with the issues, attend to the issues that were at the center of what happened in the May Day rallies yesterday. So that very same point, and I think leaders have agreed on that, lays a very good basis for us to have a conversation internally within the ranks of the alliance and start the process of uniting the whole revolutionary alliance.
Yeah, but I mean, the message of unity was also pronounced on the January 8th statement. I think the issue of ill discipline or dissenters going outside the structures and damaging the movement and the brand, and eroding whatever gains have been made in uniting the party. I think that horse has bolted already. I'm not sure if you still need a further discussion to discuss the very same issues I've highlighted.
You know, once we start to lose confidence and start to question whether people can sit around the table and have discussions or not, we will not be consistent with the history of our country. The history of our country is that we are where we are as a country, having gone through a very difficult past, because we have had confidence in sitting around the table and confronting the issues that faces us at every given point. So once we start to lose confidence in discussions, and of course, we're not referring here to what people call talk shows or just discussions for the sake of it. But the point I'm making is, from where I'm looking at what happened yesterday, workers expressed themselves and the leaders agreed there's a need to talk, to discuss and to deal with the matters so that we can unite the alliance. And we must remember that South Africa today has got no better alternative than the ANC-led alliance, the alliance with Cosatu, SACP, and SANCO, because only this alliance provides a very good basis to move our country forward. So it is very much important that leaders, one, say we have a problem, two, let's have discussions about it, let's find a basis to move forward. That, I think it's what is encouraging, coming out of yesterday.
But the problem seems to be the alignment of certain candidates for the succession of the ANC president in December, and these being made publicly clear that Cosatu, for example, sides with the Cyril Ramaphosa. SACP has called for Jacob Zuma to step down, and the message still of unity doesn't seem to be at least cascading to branch level, where the decisive announcements would then be determined. So, Professor Siape, do you think there's more mayhem that we're likely to see before there is self-correction?
Well, maybe one should say it's good that these things have happened now and far away from 2019. Because if these things were to happen just before the eve of elections, then the ANC alliance was not going to do well. But what we learn also is that sometimes we learn better by making mistakes. One of the things that the leaders of the alliance should know is that when you make pronouncements, those pronouncements do have consequences. What was also very clear and unclear to many other people, that is when Cosatu talked about even the president stepping down, they knew that they have no authority on him stepping down as a leader of the ANC, because they'll be undermining the will of the branches. But they were saying he should step down as a president of the country. So that was quite confusing. And what was also confusing is that in what capacity was he invited? But what also emerged from the ANC is that in as much as they respect the alliance, they also think that members of the alliance must also respect the ANC in determining its own future. But having said that, we should also not pretend that there are no influences. If the alliance partners were to be quiet, you'll also have other noises that are coming out. So it's also important for the alliance to guide and advise. But what becomes very problematic is when members of the alliance begin to project themselves as enemies. You know, I'm always happy when I see members of the alliance talking about that we said the comrade Jacob Zuma should step down. Because what it does, it brings a comradely element. It says that this is not personal. And this is why, even after they said that, you could see Bladen Zemande and Stumo Dlamini sitting together with the president. People don't understand, that there are political issues.
Appreciated, sure.
Yeah. But what is important here is really that the demand or request by the ANC that they let us sort out our problems, and the position that is also taken by the SACP today, we will assist where we is. But there have been other people within the SACP who, when you listen to them, you actually tend to get the sense that they hate the president more than they hate poverty, more than they hate inequality and all that, where these things become very personal. I actually find it shocking that you'll have people who'll be bashed with the intention to go and disrupt. So I do think that what the alliance needs to do is to say this new normal, which is a disruption, should not be what defines the form of engagement between people who all of them are faced with having to deal with one challenge. And the challenge is not individuals within the ANC or within the SSCP or within Cosatu.
Yeah, what we've seen in the past couple of months is really devoid of any principles, especially if you're going to make your voice heard to express disenchantment with a particular leader. There are always different choices in hindsight. So how do these ambush tactics, especially if there's intelligence that has now been confirmed by the president's, or rather the top six and our sources, he still went there as a gesture of good faith, was booed, wasn't able to speak, an unprecedented event in the history of the alliance. That in itself is very worrying, that I think the decay has set in so much that it is now become canceric. Sfiso, for you, who's not talking or saying correct?
Yeah, I think you and I and Prof sat on January 8 and listened to Mr. Nzimande make a holy statement on the unity. This is the year of Oliver Tambo. And I think now it has come to light that those statements were not true. The clarity here is that some politicians speak one thing 1 week and immediately forget or change it the other. One must always remember that when President Thabo Mbeki was ousted, it was Mr. Nzimande who was the the cheerleader to the end of that administration. It is also Mr. Nzimande who's leading the chorus here. I think South Africans must also ask themselves, who loves the ANC more? Because whilst President Jacob Zuma is still the president of the ANC, who does it rebuke? Who does it insult when you boo him, when you bring down the human dignity of a president that is your own, and then you come back and you say, well, we love our movement, we love the unity, and we are going to break down factions and come together. It was clear yesterday that that event, that booing was planned, it was maliciously orchestrated to bring him down. The TNA, the New Age newspaper, released a slate some months ago. And sources had it that this was Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa's slate and Mr. Blade Nzimande was there. And we looked and thought, where would this come from? If you look at the political decay that has come in the last 2 months in this country, is proof of who is running the camps, who is running the slates up to 2019. Yep. So people come on TV and radio and say, well, we're working to the unity of the organizations, but they go out in rallies and they divide the party and they bring more factions to each other.
Mr. Mababulo, so whose then is the altruist who is supposedly going to restore the dignity of the movement? And, you know, everybody's claiming to be against corruption and state of capture, and we see more greed and self-preservation. There's the option of SACP ministers themselves who've called for Zuma to leave parliament, simply resign, but haven't exercised that opportunity. And yet they're very vociferous in calling for his demise. So that is a contradiction in terms.
I think, firstly, let me just, emphasize the point that the leaders of the alliance made yesterday, all of them, about the fact that what has happened shouldn't have happened, but there are issues that need to be attended.
Yeah, but so somebody knew that it was going to happen.
So
somebody had planned and orchestrated this. We have this on record.
I want to come to that point. But let me just first clarify, particularly the Prof here and my colleague, that it has never helped anyone, it has never helped any revolutionary process, that when there are issues that are being put forward, instead of focusing on the issues at hand, you start to construct ghost and build conspiracy theories and start to do the blame game. That might sound very popular, might excite some people, but is it the right way to deal with the issues? If they've got evidence that this was planned, can we test them now? Can they give us the details right on the show? Who planned it and what are the details of the plan? The issue here is workers have raised issues yesterday in their overwhelming majority about what they see as threats to national sovereignty, stability of our country, issues of corruption, corporate capture, and the overall leadership of the country. Those issues, we mustn't sweep them under the carpet and construct all ghosts all over the place. What we must do is to say, yes, indeed, there are issues that must find expression within the Revolutionary Alliance, and then we take our country and its people forward.
Yeah, but we cannot say that the slates are not impacting or fueling the divisions. There's self-interest, there is greed, there's preservation, there's people aligning themselves with the next leadership, and that cannot be denied.
The issues of factions, we have raised it as the SACP, absolutely right. The issue of factionalism, of corruption, of manipulation, of including our democratic institutions, of using money and all sorts of things. Those issues we have raised them in the Alliance 2016. Last time we met, those issues were very clear. Everybody in the Alliance agreed on those issues that they need to be confronted. So there's no doubt about that. The real issue here is we've got to find a way forward to the issues that the workers have raised, and that's what we must be looking at. I want to challenge my colleagues. Can they tell the viewers who planned the things that they say they are aware of?
Let's deal with it. No, of course.
Can we get that?
No, wait a bit.
Now,
when you have rallies, it's known that people get bust. Whether they go there to disrupt or not, people get bust. There's nothing unusual about it. It's
But
what
Prof,
happens.
you're said to disrupt.
No. Just
So
wait,
prove
wait.
that.
No. You have the leadership of the province, the ANC, say they've got this intelligence. But let's leave that aside. But what we cannot pretend is that the disruption. No. Just can you give me? The disruption did not occur spontaneously. The disruption occurred because there were statements that were unfortunate. There was what appeared to be a bloodletting within the alliance. So the alliance partners must accept that there is a problem among themselves. That's the first thing. And the issue of corruption, the SSCP. Chief.
He's not the chief investigator. We say we do have it on tape. Yes, you can ask your members in the alliance then for evidence.
So, Prof, you don't have proof.
No.
So let's leave that.
I don't know whether this is a strategy
of
SSCP
chief investigator,
to be disruptive. No, the simple thing, but you see, this is a problem with disruption, that once we allow the new norm to be disruption, this is what we end up with. I gave him a chance to put his thoughts
and
without interruption. And then he does exactly what some people were doing. No. There you're going again.
Let's get the ANC.
No, there you're going again. You just proved the point. No. You proved the point of disruption. When people are there, don't disrupt. And this behavior is the very same behavior that we're condemning that happened yesterday.
Listening is also a skill. Sorry, Sfiso, we just have to go to Sfiso Mtweni, ANC Youth League, NECA member in the Western Cape. Sfiso, just the whole question around that the enemy within is essentially sabotaging efforts to reunite and fix the problems within the alliance. This was clearly demonstrated with the booing of President Zuma at one of the key calendar events of the tripartite alliance. What's your view in that if you cannot rein in members for one common purpose, then what is the objective of the alliance in the first place?
No, thank you very much for having us. I think first and foremost, we must put it categorically clear. The workers yesterday, particularly led by Cosatu, missed an opportunity to really reflect on the state of workers in South Africa today, the state of our trade union federation. You would know that today Cosatu, quite strangely, unlike before, is led to or has a lot of membership, particularly from the public sector unions. In the private sector unions, we've got new players there. We have lost metal workers to a new federation. In the mining sector, we've got other players such as AMCU, and our norm is extremely weakened. Satau today in the transport sector and other sectors, security sector, has been weakened with breakaways of other unions. Just 2 weeks ago, there has been a launch by Zwelinzima Vave and his friends of a new trade union. So yesterday was really an opportunity for the Alliance for Cosatu to really come together and say, what is it that needs to be done to reclaim the glory of Cosatu? Because the moment Cosatu enters politics of the ANC and it neglects politics of the workers, which are shop floor workers, issues of white monopoly capital in the mining industry, in the security industry, in the construction industry, where workers are super exploited, and you start to deal with narrow factional issues of the ANC, seems like the one of yesterday happened. But I think from the ANC Youth League, we want to appreciate the fact that the president of the ANC accepted the invitation of workers to come and address it. Now, we knew this. I think Nehau, SADU, and other unions have been very vociferous in that the president must not come and address workers. Now, Cosatu has raised its view around the president of the republic stepping down. At no point has Cosatu, in our view, raised an issue of an ANC president stepping down, because even if Cosatu were to raise that issue, Cosatu has no jurisdiction to call for an ANC president to step down, because the ANC president has been elected by ANC branches. As citizens of the country, workers have got a right to express themselves about the situation in the state. But where we begin to differ is when the alliance itself is being dragged into factional issues, when we've got very important issues such as issues of workers, particularly in the private sector, and white monopoly capital dominance that continues to exploit workers, pay them peanuts, and Cosatu is not expressing itself on those issues, instead bussing in people into stadiums to come and boo people. And we must quickly clarify, Jacob Mamabolo there on the studio, there were people that were bussed in. The How has been very clear and open that the president must not address. If the president addressed, certain things were going to happen. Satu was very clear that the president must, so he must not come there and say we must have certain investigations. It has always been clear. And lastly, the SACP, if in fact it's got its own Congress in June, in their own Congress they are saying, or they are exploring the possibility of going to contest state power in 2019 on their own. Now we begin to wonder that this continuous attack on the leadership of the ANC, this continuous attack disguised as a fight against corruption and state capture, if it's not part of the strategy of the SACP to reposition itself as a party that will contest state power in 2019.
All right, Mr. Mchebe, just hold that line. Hold that thought. Let's give Mr. Mamabolo a chance to respond. Complacency, a lust for leadership, and causing disruption as an attempt to destroy the movement, the alliance, with the hope of making it in the elections 2019.
Well, I think firstly, let me acknowledge the points made by the leader of the ANC Youth League. But I think as leaders of the movement, it is very much important that we be very careful in how we can end up, perhaps with good intentions, alienating the overwhelming majority of the people who firstly are workers and working class, to which the ANC is biased, and alienate them from the African National Congress by beginning to quarantine the ANC and start to create no-go areas for workers. Because once we start to talk about workers getting involved in ANC matters, first we are denying that the working class base of the ANC, the overwhelming majority of the people who are first and foremost are workers, the unemployed, and various sections of the working class. Once you start to do that, you are alienating the African National Congress from itself, and that is an indication of failure to understand the character of the African National Congress. But having said that, I think the challenges that he raises about the fact that there are problems in the trade union movement, Cosatu itself has accepted that. The issue that I'm challenging is, once we start to descend into, of course, people went there by transport, there were buses organized. But if we want to construct a theory that there were people who were bussed in purely to disrupt, we will have to demonstrate that, because I'm surprised I had Prof talking about intelligence report.
Very briefly in 30 seconds, going forward,
missing an opportunity
how do you
here.
then
Don't
curb
become
the
obsessed with
decay or
that.
the
Let's
further
deal with other
decay
issues.
of
We are missing an opportunity here to deal with the issues of corporate capture of the state, which is an alliance position. And we must also not create an impression that the issues around the leadership of the president is only being raised by alliance members. Just in November last year, there was a meeting of the ANC that had to end on Monday. It was extended because people raised issues.
But how
So
does
the point
this
I'm
serve
raising
the
is,
alliance? Just find out
across the alliance,
briefly.
there are concerns about the state of the revolution, and it's not only alliance partners.
But your actions does not
ANC
benefit
itself.
the very
Can I talk
alliance
about
that you
the
so
workers?
Selfishly talk about. Your actions as the SACP does not help to restore any faith in the alliance. So I don't know
We
what...
will have to state which ones. Because we mustn't make
public outbursts into the gallery.
We mustn't make statements that we can't back up with evidence.
Yeah.
We can't make general and sweeping statements. What you are saying, you will have to demonstrate which ones.
The workers.
Yes, Solema Paila, number one, the endless open letters, the public utterances made against, or rather criticizing Zuma, and yet you're saying that you are all in the interest of restoring the alignment. It's a contradiction. Okay, so you're just getting on the bandwagon because everybody else is
We're
doing
missing
that.
the issue here. The issue is that you have an alliance that is having a crisis, and that is not a crisis caused by us. And we have the ANC that has a crisis within itself. You have ANC that complains about the SACP's posture. You have members of Cosatu who also are divided. So the point is that the leadership of the ANC and the leadership of the partners must sort this out, because it's embarrassing whichever way they want to look at it. And we cannot pretend that all is well.
Yeah. Very briefly,
Yesterday was May Day. And this disruption has really not assisted the worker. For anyone in the working class in this country, attending this rally, they want their lives spoken to by the leadership they voted for. They have issues of classism, they have remuneration challenges, there's issues of white monopoly capital capture. They needed those issues addressed. Having the president not speak and cancelling the event was a violation to the worker. We can't come here and discuss bus issues and who does not want the president. The person that was discriminated and wounded yesterday was the worker. Some of us can make the statements because we are very well paid, but it was the worker that lost last night.
Thank you so much for your time. We'll have to take a quick ad break.